I'd now like to ask you to welcome Vanessa onto the stage. Vanessa is with DUFA.
Everyone wish to the DUFA fairy. Okay, we're going to give it a go. And we're not succeeding. Right, okay. Today is a unique opportunity. We have the opportunity to pause and reflect and look back at some of the great ideas from fundraising's past. But the idea I'm presenting today is so fundamental to human nature, I've had to go back a little bit further than most of the presenters you've seen today. In fact, I'm going back into prehistory. So most of you will be aware of the great cave paintings in France and Australia. I'm expecting to see some noddings. Yeah? Well, from a fundraising perspective, I'm far more interested in these, which interestingly enough are called kivas. Might be where they got the name from. Kivas are the less formal form of communication of prehistoric man and woman, let's not be sexist here. And what they were guidance stones, often experienced hunters passing on their knowledge to their novices. And these conversations would happen not just one-off, but they'd happen over years, a connection between two people tens of thousands of years ago. So why on earth am I talking about this? Well, there is a fundamental human need to connect. We all know that. And my fundraising idea is the one, and in many ways, the best one of the ones today, that meets that need. I am, of course, talking about child sponsorship. Many charities do it, but probably the best known one is Plan. For those of you who've been locked in a dark cupboard for the last 2 generations, Plan brings together the developed and the developing world by connecting the donors with a child living in the community who is benefiting from the gift. Now, this is where I come across a bit of a problem because child sponsorship raises some very strong opinions, and there'll be some strong opinions in this room. There are even people who might say, I'd never work for a charity that was willing to sell its beneficiaries to raise money. Unfortunately, that was me. I was against it. It's a cynical way for charities to exploit beneficiaries, making them work for the money we should be giving. Well, that was till my best friend Jeff was civilly partnered last year. And Jeff said he didn't want any money for his wedding presents. Instead, he asked for gifts to Plan because he wanted to continue to support Madoudi. This is Madoudi in the yellow. Fantastic looking girl, strong sense of style. What this was about for Jeff, Jeff's been supporting Madoudi for a number of years. And at his wedding reception, he displayed letters and pictures that she'd produced over the years for him. And these are real letters from a little girl who's the same age as my daughter. And I'm afraid, as I looked at them, I had the dawning realization. All of those letters that I've ever written, and I tell you what, I'm pretty good. I'm not the best, but those fundraising letters are from the heart. I've worked over them, I've sweated them, I've thought about every single word, but they're from a third party. They've been filtered through a fundraiser. They've then been refiltered through a copywriter. And none of them had the genuine quality that Madoudi's letters have. And I bet you none of them had the impact that Madoudi's letters have on Jeff and Tinu, because they don't just support Madoudi. They genuinely care for her. She is a part of their family, but living in a different country. And this is why child sponsorship is genius. It taps into that fundamental human need to connect. It's a genuine exchange between the giver and the beneficiary. The giver is getting the responsive communications and the tangible evidence they need to prove their support is having an effect. We've talked quite a lot today about tangibility, about authenticity, but this is in its rawest state. Communication between the giver and the receiver directly, without filter. It's meeting practical needs. A lot does that. But it's actually meeting the emotional needs. There's a mutual benefit here. Now, that's all the touchy-feely stuff. And I'm talking to a bunch of fundraisers. So I'm suspecting that some of you still need convincing. Here's Madoudi again at school. She looks happy now. See, she's got Jeff's money. So those of you who still need convincing, child sponsorship, it underlines the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is a crisis appeal, it's a one-off gift. Empathy is about committed, long-term, self-sustaining giving, and that's exactly what we've got here. It's amazing lifetime value, there's never been anything better, and it's easy legacies. But more important than that, even, you want to upgrade? I tell you what, if there's ever a natural disaster in the area where Madoodi lives, Jeff's going to be the first one on the phone making a gift, shortly followed by me. Feel free to answer. I hear someone phoning to say that we can't all do child sponsorship. That's not what my charity does. Well, I work for a hospice, and I tell you what, if I took a proposition to my chief exec saying, oh, can't we do sponsor a dying patient? Well, as my director of donor development pointed out to me earlier, it wouldn't be a very long-term committed giving proposition, would it? We're allowed to make jokes like that, work for a hospice. Okay, so we can't all do child sponsorship, but we can take the lessons from it. What we can take the lessons from is about being genuine, about being authentic and applying that to create a connection between our supporters and our beneficiaries. At our hospice, we invite our supporters into daycare. They join in diversional therapy. For those of you who don't know, it's sort of arts and crafts. If you've ever seen a bunch of Rotarians don plastic aprons and paint watercolours for the first time, it is definitely worth an entertaining half hour. They get to chat to patients, they get to talk to our specialist nurses, and then they get to give us their money. It's more effective than ever clever DM. So, with apologies to all the agency people in the room, here's my challenge. This year, reinvest the creative budget you've put aside for one DM pack. Not all of them, just one. This doesn't have to cost lots. And invest it into a genuine, authentic exchange between your beneficiaries and your donors. Take pictures, because you've still got to send out your DM, post those photos out, and watch the money roll in. Because after all, the only people who can lose out on this is the copywriters. Thanks very much.